Let's talk about the judges on the ballot. We all know people who are just leaving that part of the ballot blank because they don't know any of the names, and there are so many of them. But our judges and justices have a lot of say in legal cases that shape our communities, and they often do make headlines for their decisions. Eric, all these judges were originally chosen by the governor, and then it's up to us now to reappoint them into their office.
Yeah, that is the system we have. And I guess I don't want to talk about individual judges or justices because there are too many of them to get into. Something is wrong with this process. I know this process, when it came about many decades ago, was regarded as a very progressive reform. And Lord knows, I'm not arguing that we go back to electing judges. That would be a step completely in the wrong direction. But that's not to say a process. It's aged over time. There's a rot that's gotten in the system. Lord knows the judicial department has been embroiled in its own scandal and hasn't exactly responded with a high degree of transparency or a reform of its own. Any system where 99, rounded up, call it 100% of judges are retained in office, which is what we have, is not a meaningful, effective system. And if I was a governor or whatever, and obviously I'm not, I would put together a task force of serious people to look how we reform something that has atrophied.
I don't want to go back to electing judges. There's something unseemly, in my opinion, about someone who's supposed to be an impartial arbiter of your case running for your vote and raising money and asking to do that. So I have a problem with that. But the current system needs significant reform. Judicial branches at the state and federal level are suffering from a lack of public confidence in terms of what they do, how they reach decisions, and the lack of transparency and openness. People are beginning to question whether they really are impartial arbiters of a system. And we've got to fix that. And I don't know if it's reformulating the Judicial Commission, the evaluation process. You know, it used to be my mother and her friends would call me and say, which judges should they vote for? And I'm like, you know, Mama, I don't try cases anymore, so I'm not in court. So I don't know half of these people any better than you do. And I think that's happening more and more with the electorate. They have a list of 30 names. They're like, I never heard of these people before. And maybe you might see a name in a newspaper article every now and then, but generally speaking, you don't see them, you don't hear about them. And by design, judges make it a point not to be out in the public, not to be known, not to be visible, so as to properly administer justice in their courts. But we've got to fix this system because there's a long list of names, and I'm a practicing lawyer, and I didn't know 75% of them.
Really? Okay. Yeah. All right. Patty.
Our story that most people have looked at in all our election stories is how you look at the judges and where you can find more information. Unfortunately, with the number, you have to have a huge staff if you're going to research them. I think the last time we really did an investigation of a judge was Lynn Huffnagel, if you remember her, a very controversial judge who did wind up losing. But it's so much time and energy, so the only really smart thing would be to reconstitute those commissions. Get citizens involved. There certainly are citizens upset enough about the system that maybe we can set it up, not unlike a new system with H, which I would encourage people to vote for. It doesn't go far enough, but we need more transparency. We need more accountability. And I think citizens working on those commissions would go a long way to at least getting them feeling they have a say. They're not lawyers, but they can certainly judge unfairness.
Mm-hmm. Krista.
I was one of those Coloradans that didn't vote that section, just because if I don't have if I'm not going to be thoughtful and due diligence and look at each one of these judges, I'm not going to vote one way or the other. With one exception, I did vote for Justice Marquez of the Colorado Supreme Court. She was one of the majority in the Anderson v. Trump lawsuit, of which I was part. I thought that both the majority and the minority put forth thoughtful opinions. But there are some on the right that want to punish those that voted in the majority in our case. And I was hoping I could at least nix out one of those punishment votes and say, job well done. Job well done for all of the justices that heard that case. That is certainly not a reason to oppose a judge. And so I did make an exception.
Thank you for watching this ballot discussion. The Colorado Inside Out team has tackled one measure every week right up until Election Day. Do not miss an episode so that you are all set to vote on or before November 5th.